We are back on the PHLY Eagles podcast, and it's time now to check in with our mystery man. That's right. Wannabe GM, the Vic Fangio expert who may or may not be, I don't know, Howie Roseman or somebody else, but somebody who has studied Vic and has some real in-depth thoughts on the state of the Eagles defense and some of the X's and O's for the sickos out there. How are you, Mr. Wannabe?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on, guys. Hope you guys are doing well, too.
We're doing very well. And so you have prepared a nice presentation for us. We got some grabby grabs, some snappy snaps, and some other graphics. And we start with what you believe is the number one takeaway from the first half of this Eagles season. Is that correct?
The number one, perhaps, of this whole Eagles era, if I may say. Is it Lindsay today?
Is what?
Is Lindsay working today?
No, this is Andrew.
Yeah.
Oh, Andrew. I'm so sorry, Andrew. Andrew, if you could please fire up the PowerPoint slide for Cameron Latu, the one and the only.
Oh.
Here you go.
Cameron Latu, man,
go,
myth, or God, can be debated. Some things you'll never know. It's like chicken and the egg. You just, you might debate it forever. The reason for the run game resurgence, is he 98% the reason for the resurgence? Is he 99? Is he 100? Every time he blocks a linebacker, I hear an angel gets its wings.
Oh. You're talking my language, Wannabe.
He's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
I need to fan myself
Some
here.
think that he might even be the key to world peace. I'm just saying, some people are saying that. That's all.
Oh. I didn't think there was anybody out there who loved Cam Latu as much as me.
He's doing this for you.
This is
We're
this
gonna
works.
do 60 minutes of Cam Latu talk right here with screen grabs out the wazoo. You ready?
All right, you've buttered him up enough. Let's get to the real stuff here. Let's talk about the defense.
Oh, geez, with him here, I thought we were talking about Cam Latu. Okay, all right,
we can talk about Cam Latu all day.
I'm gonna leave.
All right, let's go to the Run D slide. The Run D PowerPoint, please.
Here we go. Run D problems
right.
part 1. Let's get to, because I think there's 2.
All right.
Here we go.
So in 2024, they were 4th in EPA per rush, and now they're 21st in 2025. So if you're noticing as fans, as I'm sure many are, some run defense weakness relative to last season, that is accurate. I'm sure a lot of fans are also noticing that there's a lot of wide runs outside the tackles, or that head outside the tackles and cut back, but a lot of them just go right outside the tackles. That's also accurate, and it has been an issue. If we could please go to the numbers.
That's the second slide.
The rest of the Run Ds. No, the rest of the Run Ds. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Condensed fronts versus 3x1. I spoke with you guys about this briefly at the beginning of the season, how Vic had a problem in his condensed fronts as a condensed defensive front, where the defensive ends are tighter on the offensive tackles instead of out wide. It closes up the A gaps and the B gaps. And I said that Vic had a problem with 3x1 that in this defensive structure that was so valuable for us for a handful of snaps throughout every game in 2024, sometimes more than a handful. It was really good against the run. It helped them stay in nickel against the run. And it really helped out the team. But I said he had an issue that he might need to address if he wants to continue to use it. And it doesn't seem like he's addressed the issue. If you get 3 receivers or 3 blockers out to a side, outside one of the offensive tackles, either pre-snap or post-snap by having a fullback or a tight end swipe over to that side, or a receiver swipe over to the side to be a third receiver or a third blocker, or pre-snap, just having 3 guys line up, it is an issue because in this defensive structure, it's difficult to match. He doesn't match the number of blockers or the number of receivers up at the line of scrimmage. Instead, the third guy is being matched by a safety, 15 yards back, and that doesn't go so well for run defense. And it seems like it's actually hurting Vic much more than I realized it was going to. And that's been a significant source of run defense weakness this season, especially the runs to the outside. Weeks 1 and 3, versus the Rams in Dallas, these fronts accounted for roughly 100 yards of offense that we gave up at a clip of, and this is not a mistake, 15 decimal point 83, 15.83 yards per carry. So this is a problem with Vic on the whiteboard, where the league is starting to catch up to him a little bit schematically with these condensed fronts. Week 1, he had one really bad run that went against him versus Dallas. It was a pin pull run to the outside in 3-by-1. And he was so scared of Kansas City running pin pull the next week, he avoided the fronts entirely that week. The following week versus the Rams, they ran it down our throat to the point where when they saw us in a condensed front, they started audibling to one another to adjust the run play to a 3-by-1 outside run play, and they walloped us on the ground that way. Against the Giants in Week 6, the game we lost. Towards the end of the game, the Giants were running out the clock, running the ball down our throat. We were in the condensed fronts, which in theory is supposed to stop the run. It did not, and in our condensed fronts, the Giants averaged 5.43 yards per carry. In other games, it's been hit or miss, because not every team is going to be capable of or aware of, how to best take advantage of it. But other teams are definitely aware. He also Vic tried a zero linebacker solution to the 3-by-1 problem once. I'll show you some screen grabs in a moment.
Let's get to him.
Yeah, okay, let's get to him then.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Let's get to number 8.
Number 8, here we go.
All right, so you have, this is just to give an idea of what the condensed front looks like. It could be a 6-man front or a 5-man
I see Brandon
front.
Graham.
Yeah, this is from last year against the Saints.
Yeah.
If you remember, the Saints were a run-heavy team at the time, and Vic really leaned heavy into his base personnel, as well as even in nickel personnel, these condensed fronts, and it really wrecked the Saints' run game. And he continued to use them all throughout the season quite successfully. So I just want to give the fans, the watchers, a little bit of education here. So the A gaps are either gap on either side of the center, just outside of shoulders. The B gaps, the next gap over and between the guard and the tackle. And these condensed fronts really close down the A's and B gaps. Vic will play a little bit with the positioning of the players, but generally you'll have 2 defensive tackles real thick on the guards. They're not on the outside shoulders. They're either heads up or slightly inside, as a 2-eye, they call it. Taking away those A gaps. And then you have defensive ends who could either be head up or 5-tech, some cases even like a 4-eye, but usually 5-tech. They'll be taking away the B gaps. They also help with the C gaps as well, but it has the effect of this front has the effect of really clogging up the interior gaps and keeping blockers off your stacked linebacker. Since the blockers are off your stacked linebacker, because they're all getting absorbed by the defensive lineman, you can get away with having one stacked linebacker who, instead of flying down to the hole in the line of scrimmage, kind of takes his time, paces himself, matching the running back, tracks the backside hip of the running back, and usually can tackle the running back unblocked. You'll see to the left there's an overhang. This is the 5th person on the front, up front. Typically, it's a linebacker. In this case, I think it's Zach Bond to the left of your screen. He's the overhang. That's like a linebacker or a safety or a nickel, essentially, just outside the defensive end. Instead of the stacked position off the line of scrimmage next to where Nakobe Dean is, he's up on the line of scrimmage as more of an overhang. The number 6th person, sometimes it's a 6-man front, sometimes it's a 5. In this case, it's a 5-man front. And the 6th person, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen, you can't even see the 6th person. I have an arrow pointing to him off the screen. It's the nickel. He's the other overhang, making up essentially the 6th person in sort of a quasi 6-man front. So that's just an overview of how the front looks up front and how it takes away the run in the A and Bs. Has a nice differentiation of labor or separation of labor. I like, because it's more clear what everybody's job is. There's less hesitation, and it's been very effective for the run, for Vic against the run. He used this against McVay years ago. This and 6 other versions of the 6-man front versus
Yeah.
McVay years ago, quite successfully. Belichick copied it, and Belichick used it against McVay in the Super Bowl that year, and it's a big reason why Belichick and the Pats won the Super Bowl that season. Well, apparently McVay is sick and tired of Uncle Vic kicking his butt with these fronts, and this year he was ready. I guess let's go to number 9.
Number 9, you're fine.
So this is the same snap, just a side view. You'll see I numbered people up top, number 1 and number 2 in red. That's the number 1 receiver, the outside most receiver, and the number 2 is the next receiver inside. So there's 2 receivers up top or 2 blockers, depending on what type of play is, run or pass. At the bottom of the screen, you have 1 receiver. Now you have 2 guys in the backfield. The one guy with the red arrow is going down to the bottom of the field like a little misdirection and post snap. And then you end up in essentially a 2-by-2. 2 guys at the bottom, 2 guys at the top. Which is the ideal offensive setup alignment for this defensive structure. You don't have to get too fancy with it. The numbers are matched. You have an overhang on either side, matching the number 2 receiver. You have a cornerback on either side, matching the number 1 receiver. You have safeties behind helping the whole thing. And you have the Mike in the middle, who's Nakobe Dean. Now I have a purple arrow going to the top of the screen from the backfield. That's the running back, the ball carrier. And with all the blockers covered up, Dean is able to go and meet the ball carrier. And even though it's an outside run, and Dean is not the speediest guy outside, he gets there just fine. He was excellent in these all year long, and it was just a 2-yard gain. So that's the more ideal scenario of how the fronts typically work. But let's get to slide number 10 to see where things start to go awry. So this is the Rams week 3 of the season, where I said McVay really got his lick back against Uncle Vic. And on this particular snap, instead of sending someone over a post snap as a fullback or tight end swiping behind, or a wide receiver in McVay's case swiping behind, he just lines up 3 guys on the side outside the tackle, all condensed right there. Number 1, number 2, number 3. You see them. And then the running back heads out that way. And because Vic won't bring a third person down from somewhere, he could either bring the safety down, but Vic, he likes to maintain his too high pre-snap disguise.
Right.
So he doesn't like to bring the safety too frequently down into the box. Another option is if it's 2 wide receivers on that side of the line of scrimmage, he could do corners over, which is another thing we know Vic typically doesn't like to do, although he surprised us a couple weeks back against the Vikings on a few snaps. He doesn't like to take his left corner and move him over to the same side as the other corner and have 2 corners, because he hasn't taught that corner how to be the inside, essentially nickel, on all the different coverages. They'd be stuck having to play man, and it would be too much of a tell.
This is like Sean McVay is George Costanza, and has been waiting and plotting and biding his time to have the right to finally have the right comeback. And he gets
Vic
it. We'll get to the playoffs when Vic Fangio
space.
can say you're their all-time bestseller.
Absolutely. Yeah, Vic must have taken his Costanza parking space years ago from McVay, and McVay wants his revenge. Yeah.
Right.
So Vic does not bring the safety down. He doesn't bring a corner over. He keeps 1 overhang on either side. And this is a problem because now you can see the safety in the screen on that side of the field. I think that's a safety, and there might be a corner, and the safety's even farther back, actually. There's no chance they're going to get there in time. I mean, what's the Gene going to do? We know he's Superman, but he's not going to take on 2 or 3 blockers by himself on the edge. And they waltz right around the edge for an easy 10 yards. And this happened this game over and over and over again. What ends up happening is Bond, seeing that there's 3 blockers over there, tries to take on one of the blockers. And if he does take on one of the blockers, he's moving laterally a significant amount of space. He doesn't have the laws of physics on his side. And by the time he gets to the blocker, it's not like he's going to dominate that blocker in time to get the running back. And then there's no linebacker behind him because it's a 1 linebacker box. Now, typically when you're in your 4-2-5 nickel set or your 5-2 odd front in base, you can shade one of your two linebackers over to the trip side, to the three receiver or three blocker side, without a big issue, and maintain your pre-snap, two high safety look. But the design of the structure, there's only one stack linebacker, so you can't pull him out of the box because then you have a zero linebacker box, and that's not a good thing. A zero linebacker box. We'll get into that in a little bit. Can we go to number 11, please?
11-11, go to heaven.
So this is the same play, side view. You see the three receivers on the right. Then I numbered the three people on the outside of on the right who are defenders, and I circled them: DeJean, the cornerback, and the safety. And then, as you can see, the safety is almost 15 yards off the ball. It's just too far. And Vic seems highly reluctant to make the adjustments he needs to for the structure. I don't know if it's just because this is a minority call for him. Like, this is more like an important changeup or an important slider or curve or whatever to his fastball, so to speak. So maybe from a time expense standpoint, he doesn't have the time to make the adjustments he needs to and teach the players the adjustments so that they can understand it. And maybe he's decided, I'll just get into something else if the league forces him to. Well, unfortunately, the league is starting to force him to. If we can go to number 12, please.
Number 12.
There we go.
Oh, no.
Bring the belv.
And this is just one more view of the condensed fronts, but this is the prettier, more symmetrical view versus 2x2. Two receivers at the top of the screen circled, two tight ends at the bottom of the screen circled. There's two defenders on either side to match the potential blockers or receivers. All hunky-dory. Without seeing this snap, unless Vic called some sort of wonky slant call, I can almost guarantee, without even seeing how this snap would play out, that it's either a run stuff or a run for less than 4 yards, which was the case over and over and over last season, especially against 2x2. So if we go to slide number 4, please.
Number 4,
So
open the door.
This is an important play, week 1. I can't remember how many yards it went for. Former Eagles running back, I think he had 45 yards or something like that. Of course, he ran around the outside. So Vic, at some level, obviously, because he's quite an intelligent and experienced defensive coordinator, and a good one, he's aware that this issue exists, but for some reason he doesn't totally want to fix it. Sometimes when he has one linebacker boxes, there's another front he does called 5-1 penny, where it's five defensive linemen in an odd front, a one linebacker box, and there's a nickel on the field. Last year against Green Bay, he went with the zero linebacker box with similar results. Very long run. It turns out, the powers that be years ago when they designed football said, let's put a linebacker in that box. You don't want to rely on Adoree Jackson with 3 offensive linemen flying at him to make this tackle on the edge, because we can be mad at Adoree for that if we want, but the way I look at it, I'm more mad at the play caller because laws of physics, and also maybe out of self-preservation, Adoree's probably going to lose that battle more than he wins it, and he did in this case, and it went for 40 plus yards. So as you can see here, when you don't have 2 stacked linebackers and you only have one, it's not a great idea to pull that linebacker. So Vic attempted week 1 to creatively address the 3-by-1 issue, but unfortunately it was bad creative. If we can go to number 1, please.
Number 1, get it done.
So in Kansas City, when Vic was afraid of their pin pull action after Dallas hit us for such a big gain on it, he didn't line up in the condensed fronts once the entire game. He got spooked, and he adjusted for that multiple ways. One of the ways he did it was he started off in either a 5-2 odd, a 5-2 odd base odd front, or his 4-2-5 over nickel front. and he just sent one of the two linebackers on a creeper pressure, and essentially, you can tell I have the numbered on the screen 1, 2, 3, 4. One of the three linebackers essentially becomes on the run blitz the fourth defensive lineman, and you end up with that 6-1 structure, that condensed run structure, post snap. So this was a way of Vic working it into the game plan without showing it, so he didn't get burnt with another big outside run. This was week 2. He started doing this later. I can't remember if it was later in the first half. I can't remember. Against Kansas City. Initially, Kansas City started to run the ball with some success, and then he started creeping into his condensed fronts post snap, and they started having a lot of success against the run against Kansas City in this game as part due to this adjustment. So not all hope is lost. Vic is aware it's an issue. I'm finding that he is playing the cat and mouse game, where he'll dangle out the condensed fronts here and there, see how much advantage the opposition takes of it by getting into 3-by-1 and running outside. If they don't, he'll stay in it. If they do, he'll move to something else or try another trick up his sleeve. But so it's great that he's aware of it. It's not great that this very strong change-up pitch for Vic last year as a play caller has now been diminished slightly. And so that is an issue he's probably going to struggle with a little bit off and on throughout the season, although I highly suspect it'll be less bad than it was those first few weeks of the season when Vic, got blindsided by McVay and Dallas.
And so what is the answer in your mind?
Oh, I would need like a 60-minute whiteboard presentation, but I would, in most cases, I would pull a safety down and go one high. I mean, a lot of times, if you're worried about defending the run, they're going to have a blocking wide receiver in there, or they're going to have two tight ends, or they're going to have a fullback, and you can get away with single high. That's one of the most common, obvious ways to address it. And in fact, in the Bucks game, I think it was week 4. Weirdly, whenever he got in the condensed fronts, he was somehow brave enough to get in them again after McVay torched him. He got in the condensed fronts in week 4, and stupidly, the Buccaneers for 3.5 quarters did not take advantage of it. They would do these little guard pulls, and they would try to run an interior run up into the A's and B's. And as I showed you, with the alignment, that's not happening. The A's and B's are closed. You're not running up. You're not running between the tackles versus front. And the Bucks did not have success for 3.5 quarters. But then in the fourth quarter, you could tell the Bucks were aware and were keeping it in their back pocket because it was a tight game. The Bucks were trailing. They were trying to tie it up, and Vic got in a condensed front, and you saw the Bucks audible to one another, just like the Rams did. I think it was the week prior, and they got into a post snap 3-by-1. They ran the ball wide. They got 7 yards on either first or second down. I can't remember which it was. The very next play, Vic lines up in the condensed front, and I'm watching the game live, thinking, "Oh, what are you doing, Vic? They're going to do it again. They're going to do it again." And they did it again, but Vic was aware that they were going to do it again, experienced play caller, and he played the cat and mouse game. Right before the snap, fired off, he brought Makuba down to the box. They stopped it for a 0-yard gain, and then after that, the Bucks didn't try it again the rest of the game.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So I think Vic, for some reason, due partially to philosophical reasons, and probably due partially to the idea that this is more of a changeup and not his fastball. I think that he's not ever going to fully address this. It might just get addressed in drips and drabs. He might eventually creeper into it, or he will eventually creeper into it on occasion and kind of hide it pre-snap. He'll still line it up in a pre-snap on occasionally. Instead of just creeping into a post-snap, he will line it up occasionally in it pre-snap. And I think he'll just test the waters to see how it goes, to see if he needs to adjust. He's been doing that with his coverages for years. He'll send out versions of 3-match early in games as his sacrificial lamb to see how long he can get away with it before he goes to something better in his back pocket. Now, if I was a defensive play caller, and I'm not, I don't think I'd have that kind of patience. I'd be throwing the gauntlet at people pretty early. But that's probably why Vic's where he is, and that's probably why I'm an internet rando. So there you go.
All right, what do we got next? You want to talk pass defense?
Can we go back to the run defense thing again?
Your show, baby.
All right. There we go. So bad edge setting. I'm sure we're all aware. Nolan Smith is out on IR.
Not for
Brandon
long.
Graham. I know. Thank God. Brandon Graham retired temporarily. He couldn't stay away. And that took away our two best edge setters versus the run from the previous season. Which is the problem, especially when you consider that most of the guys we have as backups this year are more the 3-4 outside linebacker types that can drop in coverage, that can move a little bit in space, at times provide some nice pass rush, but they're not the type of guys that you want taking on offensive tackle against the run. If we can move to number 13, please.
Number 13 with the Sheen.
Now, I listed this third because to me, this is the third biggest issue with the run game so far this year. The condensed fronts issue has been a much bigger issue thus far, and the defensive tackle issue has been an issue as well. I'll talk about that next. But this is still an issue, and it matters. And right here, I think I have circled Uche out there, and he's being blocked by a tight end. Now, the way Vic does it with the majority of his snaps versus the run is his guys up front are 1.5 gapping. It's kind of a version of 2 gapping, but not really. Essentially, they have, as you can see on the screen, I have written with arrows, Uche's primary gap and his secondary gap. His primary gap as the edge setter, he's the primary force guy for the most part in Vic's scheme. The edges are most of the time. This frees up, overhangs, nickels, safeties, corners to be more concerned with, defending the pass. And it is a passing league. But anyway, I digress. So he's got his primary and his secondary gap. And yeah, you can tell his body is perfectly in his primary gap. If the run goes out there, he's probably going to make the tackle or force the guy out to the sideline. But it's not enough to just affect the primary gap, especially if you're in like a 4-2-5 nickel front with the edges real wide. There's a lot of space in there that the defensive tackles have to handle on their own, or linebackers who are in conflict. So you want to affect that secondary gap too. Now, this is a tight end. This is not an offensive tackle. Even Josh Sweat, who was either the third or fourth best run defender last year on the edge.
Jeez,
he would have
shots
taken
fired
this.
at Josh Sweat.
Yeah, sorry. It was up my crawl for a few years. Even Josh Sweat in this situation would have taken that tight end and tossed him like a rag doll. And he would have pressured that secondary gap and made some noise. Jalen Hunt, who's really built and plays more like a 3-4 outside linebacker at edge, I'm pretty sure he would have affected the secondary gap as well. But some of the other guys we have playing due to all the injuries and temporary retirements and whatnot, some of the guys we have playing the edge just don't affect that secondary gap as consistently as they should. It's not a lack of effort. It's not a lack of knowledge. It just is what it is. And as you might imagine, they had a positive run on this play, right in that secondary gap that the edge is not affecting. So while this hasn't been the hugest of issues, it has occasionally been an issue for the run for the Eagles this season. Can we go back to the graphic for the run D?
Yes, that's run D2, Julia. No, it's a slide. It's not a screenshot. We've changed producers in the middle of the. Why don't you just go ahead and we'll find it.
All right, sure, no worries. Let me pull it up on my computer.
Yeah, it's a graphic, not a.
It is a PowerPoint.
Yeah, run D.
So
no.
Okay, so we'll talk about the defensive tackle situation. To me, this was the second biggest issue in terms of why we've had some issues against the run this season. And I would label it as defensive tackle number 4 / Jalen Carter missed 2 games. The reason why I lumped that together is because once Jalen Carter misses a game, the DT4 suddenly becomes defensive tackle number 3 in the rotation. They're playing an increased number of snaps. Now, last year, we were lucky, unusually lucky. We had 4 defensive tackles who, depending on, they were essentially starter quality. Like, I don't even know if you could even say we truly had a DT4. Now, their roles changed, switched here and there, and their snap totals changed here and there throughout the season, especially as Vic wanted JD to start losing some weight. But essentially, you had 4 starters at defensive tackle. You don't have that luxury this year. Byron Young is solid. I would say he's probably even better than a lot of teams' number 3 defensive tackles. But the reality is, if he has stretches of games when he plays a lot of snaps where he's getting bullied against the run. And against Dallas, week 1, against the Giants in the first loss, both games that Jalen Carter was out, he had stretches, Byron Young, where he did not hold up against the run well enough. I think that a lot of the times he collects blockers somewhat passively, sort of the way Jordan Davis does. And I think he might need to use his athleticism a little bit more, step into it a little bit more to deliver a blow. And because this is not college anymore. I will say that Byron Young looks incredibly much better than he did a year ago. I don't know what lab the Eagles put him in this past year, what defensive tackle lab. I want the keys to it, because I thought he was on his way out the league, and they made a player out of him. So kudos for him, kudos for them. But I do think that at times when he has to play extra snaps, it's been an issue against the run, and it's something that I think that either he or Vic need to account for better. And I didn't bring up screen gaps for that because it wasn't like one specifically type of run play. It was a whole bunch of them. And you're about to get a taste of it with the next thing I'm going to talk about. Number 4.
Counter.
Yes. So NFL teams don't run counter like crazy, but they do run it at times. So counter is number 3. Screen grab number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3, that's for me.
There you go.
EJ had to pee.
Now this ties into what I was just talking about with defensive tackle number 4. If this is the Dallas game, now with counter, you have a first puller and a second puller and a bunch of down blocks. And it's a gap run designed mainly, especially against the 4-2-5 over front, to go down the C gap. I have a little C written there with the arrow. The first puller comes out and kicks out Nolan Smith. The second puller wraps around into the hole and meets Zach Bond. The tight end double teaming Ojomo peels off the double team. He's double teaming Ojomo with the offensive tackle. Ojomo's doing a good job as an anchor versus counters, holding his ground. But if you notice DT number 4, there's an arrow going from Ojomo's right shoulder, Ojomo's 97 in the middle of the screen, all the way to the right. And you could drive a Mack truck through that thing. And you see you can see the backside of another defensive tackle who's falling, who got double teamed and washed way down the lines of scrimmage. Now, when defending the run, a lot of times if you're getting washed laterally down the line of scrimmage, as long as you bring a couple blockers with you, it's fine. It's fine. But against counter, it's not so fine. You got to anchor. You got to hold your ground. And Byron Young does not in this case. They get 5 yards out of the run. A lot of people, I think the day after, said that Campbell hesitated. You could argue that once he got that clear path right in front of him, he could have dove into the backfield. But he was moving to the left where he was supposed to go to the C gap on this play because he wants to meet that tight end who's peeling off the double team and clog up the hole. And he has to stop his momentum heading to the left as he stops into this hole, this back alley here that you could drive a Mack truck through. And he hesitates because he sees how big it is and he knows it's not supposed to be there. And he doesn't want the running back to cut back and run for 1,000,000 yards. So I kind of feel for Campbell here because he was probably, you could argue he was even smart to hesitate. But because he hesitated, because of that huge hole, that huge cutback lane that should not have been there, he was not able to get where he needed to go, and it was a 5-yard gain. Better than 20 yards or 15 or whatever it might have been.
Right.
But this kind of shows a couple things. One, it kind of shows the issue. It shows the weakness that they're having a counter this year, where they did not have yesterday. I'm sorry, last week, last year. I apologize. Last year, even in their 4-2-5 over nickel fronts, they destroyed counter, destroyed it. I have a million clips of it. I used to watch it for fun. Nolan Smith would blow people up. Their defensive tackles would clog stuff up or do all sorts of wacky stuff. And it was a beautiful thing to watch. But this year there is some weakness against counter. I ranked this as number 4 on the list out of the 4 issues they've had defending the run this year, just because teams don't live in counter all game long. But it is an issue to be aware of, in part because of DT4, but also in part because Jordan Davis is obviously a better player at the lighter weight. He has more stamina, he has more speed and quickness and agility, and he can make more plays instead of just clogging things up. And he has. It's won us a game or two.
Now here's my question for
Yeah.
you as we enter the second half. Wanna
Sure.
BGM is, given all the things you've shown us, and knowing what Vic wants to do and how he wants to play, how does the addition of Jalen Phillips and the return of Brandon Graham and also a healthy Nolan Smith change the weaknesses that you think the Eagles will have? Do you have confidence that they will be a much better run defense in the second half?
I have confidence that they'll be better. I'm not sure if they're going to reach the previous year.
Okay.
But I do have confidence they're going to be better against the run. Jalen Carter's getting healthier. In theory, he's not going to expectorate on the opponent. That's spit.
You never know.
Fancy word for spit. You never know. So in theory, he's not going to miss games. And he's getting healthier and in better shape. They're getting major reinforcements back on the edge. Even Azeez Ojulari is probably their 3rd or 4th best edge defender against the run, not necessarily other things. He does lose contain sometimes, and I suspect that's why he was in Vic's doghouse. But if you need him to take somebody on and take out that primary and secondary gap, he did it, and he might come back too if he gets back on the field.
Yeah.
But that gives you like 3 or 4, not just respectable edge defenders against the run, but very good ones. So that should make a difference.
All right. Well, good stuff. Let's close it out there, and then at some point coming up, we will have a nice conversation about the Eagles' pass defense and what your expectations are, and you can tell us why you still believe Adoree Jackson is the right guy for the job over there.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Good tease.
All right. Thank you, sir. Talk to you another time. And as always,
All right, take it easy.
we love you.